Today, I'm joined by Miko Peled, a voice uniquely positioned to dissect the crisis we are witnessing in the aftermath of Israel's June 12 attack on Iran. Miko is not just any commentator. He is the son of Israeli General Miko Peled, one of the architects of Israel's 1967 military strategy and the grandson of a signer of Israel's Declaration of Independence. He grew up inside the Israeli elite, served in the IDF, and was deeply embedded in the Zionist establishment. But he broke ranks morally and politically and has since become one of the most outspoken critiques of Israeli apartheid and genocidal wars. He's the author of The General's Son: Journey of an Israeli in Palestine, a memoir chronicling his transformation, and Injustice: The Story of the Holy Land Foundation 5, which exposes the US government's persecution of Muslim charity workers. Given his special access and understanding of the Israeli state, I've invited him to help us answer two urgent questions. How far can Israel go, and what can stop its warmongering machine? Thank you very much, Miko, for accepting my invitation, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to talk to you. As a first question, you've been following Iran and Israel for many years, and it wasn't the first time that Netanyahu was threatening to attack Iran. He was like the boy who called wolf many times since 2003. Did you really expect him to attack this time?
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast, on your show. Netanyahu is not the first prime minister. Israeli governments have been using Iran as a smokescreen. Every time they upgrade the genocide, every time they increase the killing of Palestinians, then they point to Iran as a smokescreen. And they climb up that tree and say that Iran is a threat and Iran has nuclear weapons. And then gradually they come down off the tree. And then a few years later, they come back. And this has been going on long, before Netanyahu. He didn't invent this. And so I didn't think they would, because I never thought they would actually go ahead with it, because I think the risk for them strategically is enormous. Iran is not Syria or Afghanistan or Libya. It's a formidable foe. And I think if I would assume to understand what they're thinking, is I don't think they realize the magnitude of the risk that they took strategically by attacking Iran. I always thought that they understood that this would be a bridge too far. Attacking Syria, attacking Lebanon, these are things that they're comfortable with. But going all the way and attacking a formidable foe like Iran, with its capabilities and its motivation, was not something they were actually going to do. But here we are. I was wrong. They're crazier than even I thought.
What is the motivation to do it at this time? Is it really the fear of Iran going nuclear? Is it the fact that Trump has given them opportunity? Is it, as they say, the demise or the weakening of Hezbollah has opened an unprecedented window? Why did he do it in this specific time?
Well, with Netanyahu, it's always his own benefit, its own personal gain. And politically, I think he was sensing that there are some issues internally that were threatening him and threatening his position. And so, of course, all these other conditions that you mentioned are, assisting, making it easier for him. But I think at the end of the day, this is a politically motivated internal issue, and that's why he did this. And of course, he got the okay. There's a sitting president right now who's also a lunatic, just like Netanyahu is, and cares only for his own benefit. So he said okay. So he took advantage of the conditions that make it easier. But I think the final motivation, the real motivation with him was personal, was political.
But many people believe that if he loses the vote of confidence in the Knesset on Wednesday, then he would have a couple of months before the new election. That would be the time that he would do it. But now he actually got reestablished and he was given green light for many months to come. So what are possible private and personal motivation at this stage?
Well, same thing, to establish himself, to focus the world attention away from Gaza and from Palestine. I mean, the horrendous crimes that are being committed in Gaza are getting worse and worse. Every time we think things have gotten to a point where they can't get any worse, they do get worse. Now they're rounding people up, coming for aid, and then they shoot them. I mean, it's beyond belief, and this is a great distraction. Now the world is distracted. Internally, he's willing to take some hits. He's willing to take some casualties. He's managed to create a consensus nationally. People are behind him. The government's behind him. No one is going to oppose him now when all of his opposition partners, all of his opposition, I mean, not his partners, but all of his opposition are rallying behind him. No one's going to go against him now. And this is money in the bank that he can use for a very long time.
So for many people, I mean, when people like you saying that he's doing it for personal motivation, that might give the illusion that there are other factions or other people in Israeli politics who would have acted differently. But say, imagine like in Netanyahu is gone tomorrow, the rest of the Israeli government at the current situation, would have they done such a thing or no? They would be more prudent and conservative.
There's no way to know. There's no way to tell what would have happened if it was him.
No, I want to know, is it like Netanyahu attacking Iran or is it Israel attacking Iran?
No. It's Israel attacking Iran, and the government is completely behind him. And he's got a very solid coalition of mad terrorists, lunatics, genocidal lunatics who are in his cabinet. I mean, if you look at the makeup of his cabinet, these are some of the most dangerous people. Some of the most dangerous people in that country are now holding major positions in his cabinet. So no, he has full support of his government. It's not Netanyahu, it's Israel attacking Iran. And again, we can see that he has massive support for this.
So that comes to the next question, because you've long argued that Israeli society is deeply conditioned to support policies of violence under the guise of security. What would it actually take to break the illusion? What shock or failure could finally force a national reality check?
Nothing. Israel, there have to be severe sanctions. The state of Israel, there has to be, diplomatic missions have to be closed down. There should be a complete arms blockade, arms embargo. The apartheid state needs to collapse. It's the only thing that will bring about change. There can never be a change internally as long as the apartheid state is in existence. The apartheid state has to be removed in order for us to see any kind of change. The Israeli society is on its knees, like the white South Africans were at the time, on their knees, and other mad regimes, fascist regimes, and so forth. When they're on their knees, that's when they change. There's no other way to change them. So I think the focus needs to be on dismantling the apartheid regime. One would hope that the BRICS alliance and others would step in and impose these strict sanctions and arms embargo, certainly close down diplomatic missions and ban the participation of representatives of the apartheid state in all forums, diplomatic, athletic, whatever, cultural and so on, to the point where the regime has to collapse. The Zionist regime has to collapse for us to see any kind of, have a chance for stability and peace anywhere between the Mediterranean and Iran.
Okay, so that's what I mean.
And going south towards Yemen and going into Africa. I mean, this regime has caused instability and supported some of the darkest, most horrific regimes known to man. And so it's the most destabilizing aspect in the region is the apartheid state, and it has been from the very beginning. Why the world decided to support it and stand behind it is a mystery.
I mean, it's been from beginning, but from 1967, something extra happened because the world gave them kind of complete impunity because they realized they can just go and invade other countries and there's not much repercussion. And I think from that moment onward, it seemed that something has happened. I mean, all these aggressions are being somehow justified under the guise of security. Yeah.
I would argue that it started long before that. 3 years after the end of World War II, 3 years after the Nazis were defeated and the Holocaust ended, 3 years after the concentration camps were liberated, right? 1945. In 1948, the world allowed the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Palestine to commence. Berlin is 3, 4 hours flight from Palestine. Within 3 years, these were years that were very active. We had the Nuremberg trials. We had the definition, the creation of the definition of the crime of genocide and crimes against humanity. The world seemed like they were going to really pay attention to these things. And within 3 years, they allowed the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Palestine to commence and allowed an apartheid regime to take hold in Palestine. So I would argue that the complicity with the Zionists began right there. It was long before 1967.
So Iran's leadership now faces a difficult strategic choice. What, in your view, could Iran do, not just militarily, but politically or symbolically, to humble Netanyahu and show that it is not Hezbollah or kind of Gaza, that it's a regional power with 90 million population demanding respect?
Well, it's not for me to tell the Iranian government what to do. I think they've been historically, as we look at the history of this tension and the history of threats by the apartheid state in Palestine against the Iranian government, against Iran, Iran has been acting very responsibly and very measured in a very measured way. Even their counterattacks have been measured throughout the years. And so they would have to see what is best for their country and what is best for their people. Right now, for no reason at all, their country was subjected to horrific violence and just a massive attack. And they need to, I'm sure they'll do the right thing. I mean, like I said, historically, the Iranian governments have done the right thing. I believe they've done the right thing. They were the responsible party in this relationship.
But the problem is, I mean, Netanyahu, it seems that he's asking for an all-out war. Because, I mean, if Iran wants to...
It's an all-out war.
Okay, so you agree that. I mean, so, but if Iran retaliate and act at the same level, I mean, it's going to be accused by America, by the West, by the by the Western power of acting aggressively, and then a snapback mechanism is on Iran's head for its nuclear activities. So they're going to punish Iran. Israel has attacked Iran, but if Iran retaliates at the equal level, Iran is going to be punished again with more sanctions and things. So what would you recommend? What would you do if you were Iran?
Iran can do nothing right. Iran is going to be punished by the West. Iran took a stance to support the Palestinian people. Iran took a moral stance on this issue, the right one, I believe. Iran is standing up and not kowtowing and bowing to the Western, colonial imperialist powers, and there's a price to be paid. And I don't think they do this lightly. I don't think anybody expected that they wouldn't have a price to be paid. When you stand up to these powers, there's a price to be paid, and that I don't think there's any surprise there. So whether they retaliate or don't retaliate, whether they grow wings and become angels, it's not going to make any difference. They took a stance that is contrary to Zionism. They took a stance that is contrary to the stance, the accepted stance of the Western imperial powers, and they're going to pay a price for that. There's nothing they can do. I mean, they chose the moral stance, and they're paying a price for that.
So you follow Israeli papers in Hebrew, I mean, every day. So what was the reaction to Iran's first round of response last night? Did they take it seriously, or some people say it wasn't enough, only 100 missiles, and that's not enough to stop Netanyahu and contain his aggression?
Well, after Israel launched its attack, the government, the police, all the different, bureaucracies and agencies warned people to stay near their shelters. Of course, there's a large segments of the population who do not have shelters. These are the poor and these are the Palestinians that do not have shelters. But, they told people to stay by the shelters, to expect a strong retaliation and so forth. And now, of course, they're downplaying it. They're not admitting that anything significant was really damaged. At the same time, they're playing the victim and saying, look, we did the right thing. We're fighting this terrorist regime. We're fighting this regime that wants to develop nuclear arms to kill us. and now, we're paying the price. So we're the heroes and the victims. But this is a typical Zionist discourse. This is what they always do. They commit a genocide and they say that they're the victims. So all of this is like a script. I think all of this could have been anticipated. Nothing here is surprising, including, I think, the level of the retaliation by Iran, which has been measured and responsible.
So today's day 617 of what they call Israel at war. So many people say Israeli society is getting into the point of exhaustion, and others say Israeli society has changed from within in the last 2 years and has become more aggressive and is ready to go for another year for bigger wars. And so not only Netanyahu, but Israeli society has a bigger appetite for bigger wars now. What do you think?
I don't think there's been any change. I mean, the state of Israel was established on the ashes of God knows how many massacres of Palestinians and almost Palestinians being forcibly removed from their land and their homes and so forth. So, and then immediately after it was established, it began attacking its neighbors. And immediately after it was established, it began, aggressively and violently attacking its neighbors. So there's been an appetite for war. It's Sparta. It always has been Sparta. They pretend that they're peace-loving, that they pretend that they're a developed nation and so forth. But really, it's a Sparta. And what's changed is obviously weapon systems have developed and are much more effective, and they can kill many more people. They began, if we take Gaza, the Gaza concentration camp, which was established in the early 50s, they began attacking and committing massacres there as soon as that concentration camp for Palestinians was established. And then they've never stopped. The only thing that changed is that initially they would kill dozens. Now they have these massive weapons and they can kill thousands in one swoop. And we know what that's been like. And I think calling it a war, of course, is ridiculous. I mean, it's a genocide. Look at the definition of the crime of genocide, and we compare it to what the apartheid state has been doing since 1948. It's a perfect fit.
And always like international protests, demonstrations, manifestation of anger and hatred by kind of European and Western people that Israeli society once found akin in them, and also the condemnation by ICC and ICJ. Has it had any effect within Israeli society? Can they act as deterrents or containing that aggression within Israeli society? So in turn, they can stop the leadership.
The only thing that will contain Israeli society is when they're on their knees. When the apartheid state collapses and they have nowhere else to go, and there is a free democratic Palestine that takes its place, and they have a Palestinian president or prime minister, and they have to deal with Palestinians on an equal basis as full equal citizens in a real free democratic Palestine, that's when the change will begin. Nothing short of that is going to bring about change in Israeli society. And it's not unique in that, racist societies, fascist societies always respond that way.
So some Iranians like Reza Pahlavi and his supporters have openly aligned themselves with Netanyahu, presenting it as a shortcut to freedom or Western lifestyle. What would you say to those Iranians who think siding with Israel will bring them democracy, blue jeans, and Netflix rather than chaos, war, and more authoritarianism?
Don't they have democracy and blue jeans right now?
They have, but Netanyahu, you remember famously Netanyahu promised them blue jeans, not only knowing that 90% of Iranian society, including pro-regime people, do wear blue jeans.
Is that problem? Is there a shortage of blue jeans? Is the issue? I mean, the Iranians vote. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that aligning with imperialist powers is going to help anyone. When we look at all the different countries, again, between the Mediterranean and Iran and North Africa and all the way through, we see there are some regimes who decided to align with Zionism and with the US and so forth, and there are others who didn't. Iran is holding a moral stance on this issue. But if anybody thinks that aligning with the Western powers and with Zionism is going to help Iranians, they're out of their minds. They're absolutely out of their minds. They have no sense of history.
So you don't think like a regime change or like democratization with the help of Netanyahu is possible?
Well, this is not for me to say. If Iranians want to change their government, if they want to change the nature of their state, that's for them to decide and it's for them to do. It's not for me or for anybody else to say. That's an internal Iranian issue, not for
No,
anybody else.
but that's Netanyahu's message. If you don't mind, I know you're in rush, but if you give me 1 minute, I would like you to
Tonight,
see
I wish to speak to you,
Netanyahu's speech
proud
directly.
people of Iran. To you, the proud people of Iran. We're in the midst of one of the greatest military operations in history, Operation Rising Lion. The Islamic regime, which has oppressed you for nearly 50 years, threatens to destroy my country, the State of Israel. The objective of Israel's military operation is to remove this threat, both the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat to Israel. And as we achieve our objectives, we're also clearing the path for you to achieve your objective, which is freedom. In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way. The regime doesn't know what hit them. They don't know what will hit them. The nation of Iran and the nation of Israel have been true friends since the days of Cyrus the Great. And the time has come for you.
What would you say to that?
I can't take this anymore. Well, I mean, he's a liar, number one. He's a corrupt, liar, genocidal maniac. Why would anybody believe anything he says? Anybody really thinks that he has the well-being of Iranian people on his mind? He's a genocidal maniac. Look at his political career. Look at what he's done in Gaza and in Palestine. Why would anybody take what he says seriously? You know, he's attacking Iran. He's killing Iranians, and he's saying he's doing it for Iran? I mean, are we out of our minds? Who believes a character like this? You know, you couldn't invent a worse genocidal maniac than this man, and he lies for a living. You know, there's no question that he's lying. And think about this: does anybody really believe that attacking Iran, killing Iranians, destroying parts of Tehran and other parts of Iran is for the well-being of Iranians? It's not for him to change the government in Iran. It's for Iranians to do. If they want to do it, they'll figure out the way to do it. They need him, this genocidal maniac who's murdering Palestinians by the tens of thousands per day. This is absurd. I can't believe anybody even entertains the idea that aligning with this could be possibly good for Iran or for anybody else for that matter. It's insane. It's absolutely insane to think that aligning with this genocide, and it just is not just him. I mean, the apartheid state has been a genocidal, run by genocidal criminals from the moment it was established almost 8 decades ago. So to align with this is somehow going to be good for Iranians? That's absurd. Iranian government took a principled stance on the issue of Palestine and on the issue of Zionism. And that is why they're paying the price. They could be Muslim, they could be Buddhist, they could be anything. It could be secular. It makes absolutely no difference. It would have made absolutely no difference. To somehow say that the problem is the form of government that the Iranians have right now is first of all, it's a lie, and it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the truth.
Miko Peled, thank you very much for your precious time. I hope to see you again in Jeddah.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.